Let's see how Craig messed up this tense adventure. Just as he was regrettably closing his book, he couldn't help but check his phone, sensing something suspicious behind him. When Craig handed Mr. Harrigan his checkbook, he glimpsed the oxygen tank and thought, why does this old guy always need oxygen? Mr. Harrigan confidently stated, I'm in great shape. That oxygen tank is just for show. But a few days later, Craig's mood took a nosedive. His mood swung wildly, pondering, is that tank really just a decoration? However, days later, when Craig read to Mr. Harrigan, he was shocked to see him connected to an oxygen tube, instantly tightening his heart. Craig nervously nudged him, but his phone rang Mr. Harrigan's number across from him. He realized this was bad, so he poked Mr. Harrigan a bit more gently and pulled out a small mirror to check for breath. But there was nothing, and Craig realized, hey, this isn't a game, my friend might actually be out. While waiting for the ambulance, Craig thought, I've got to do something for my friend. So he quietly read like usual, though his heart was heavy with grief. Soon after, the funeral took place, and Craig, feeling downcast, sent a heartfelt message from his phone. In church, Craig read the eulogy, reminiscing about 5 years with Mr. Harrigan. But the audience was now empty, only a cold body lay in a coffin, as everyone bid farewell to Mr. Harrigan. After gazing at Mr. Harrigan, Craig discreetly slipped his phone into his embrace. After the funeral, a person approached Craig, saying Mr. Harrigan left a will and needed to give him something. Upon opening the envelope, Craig nearly fell to his knees, discovering Mr. Harrigan left him an $800,000 trust fund for jackpot. This money was enough for him to finish college, and he could even think about starting his own business. He was over the moon. Craig immediately opened his phone, found the text had sent Mr. Harrigan, thinking, this is definitely a mind connection. Craig couldn't help but dial Mr. Harrigan, knowing he couldn't answer, yet he poured out his heart into the phone. Earlier in the morning, Craig received a text from Mr. Harrigan, leaving him puzzled. Craig began to firmly believe Mr. Harrigan was still alive, sending out this SOS, and his sleepwalking felt more tangible. The confused young Craig quickly rode his bike to the cemetery, leading to an awkward scene. Back in campus life, Craig hit the books hard to get into his dream school, and the upcoming school dance gave him a fresh goal. Dressed up to impress, he asked his crush out, ready to charm her until she said she needed to use the loo. While waiting at the door, Kenny stormed out and grabbed Craig with an iron grip. Kenny dragged Craig downstairs, convinced he had been reported by Craig, who was already expelled from school. Craig desperately explained, but Kenny was having none of it, feeling wrong to the core. Thus began an epic showdown, where Craig found himself pinned down by Kenny, MS. Kate arrived to tend to his wounds and asked what on earth happened. Craig confessed to MS. Kate, but he had no intention of reporting Kenny. If Kenny went to jail, Craig's reputation would be shot to pieces. Feeling a little awkward, Craig felt the need to vent, and naturally he wanted to call Mr. Harrigan. He told Mr. Harrigan he didn't wish for Kenny to die, just wanted to share some complaints. If you did something to Kenny, please knock 3 times on my bed. Craig just tossed that out there. Little did he know, right after hanging up, he received a text, sending a chill down his spine. He rushed to the church and confided in the pastor. This must be a hacker's prank, since the pastor had friends in the know. That day, Kenny was drunk and tried to jump out of the window, but ended up falling flat on his face, not quite the heroic exit. What the pastor didn't know was that, before dying, Kenny was clutching that box Craig had seen. Craig found a clue in the pastor's words and hurried to a phone shop to swap his phone. With a new phone in hand, he rushed to the alley, dialing Mr. Harrigan again. This time, it was a dead end. Craig didn't throw out his old phone. He silently placed it on a branch, never to touch it again. Days rolled on, and Craig continued his life as usual, getting into his dream college to study journalism. Yet every now and then he would think of Mr. Harrigan, believing life would smoothly unfold according to his plans. But then a phone call shattered that tranquility. Kate's death hit him like a ton of bricks. At Kate's funeral, Craig learned about the culprit, a drunken jerk. This jerk had been caught drinking and driving 4 times and had been arrested for driving without the license, yet now, after killing someone, he was actually potting away in a retirement home. How bizarre a scenario it is. Learning this news, Craig drove home in a fit of fury. He grabbed his dusty old phone to call Mr. Harrigan. His demands this time were simple. Craig wished for that culprit to face the music, and immediately regretted it after hanging up. He kept his eyes glued to the news and the culprit, praying there aren't any bad reports. But a certain piece of news completely inflamed Craig's anger, rendering him unable to stay calm any longer, so he quickly raced to the perpetrator's rehabilitation center with the intention of delving deeply into the real story behind the incident. The guard, a big fan of the soapies by MS. Kate, spilled the brand she adored. However, the guard also dropped a bombshell. The perpetrator left a note before his suicide containing Mr. Harrigan's favourite line from a song. This revelation struck Craig, unleashing anger, confusion, sorrow. He returned to Mr. Harrigan's grave, finally grasping the text's meaning. Remember to like and subscribe.